Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we have talked about it, and the materials that are presented with the board work is just so voluminous and not very descriptive. I think that they're very hard to understand, and so we are, we've been talking about it, and I'm hoping that we will get to a point where it's concise and descriptive of what the big changes are, so that the board and the public are aware of what we're voting on. So I thank you for that, and thank you for putting up with me. And
Well, thank you. I just want to point out the current format has been in place for quite a while, so it's not like we've changed anything. It's past audit, so it satisfies the compliance requirements, but absolutely we can work toward providing additional detail. Transparency is certainly high on our list of goals.
thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mrs. Ford. Okay, got a motion, second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion passes 5-0. Superintendent Saunders, number 2.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the new job description and position of Director of Diversity and Inclusion.
So move.
Moved by Reverend Golden,
Second.
second by Dr. Hopes. Board members, any question? Mrs. Foreman?
Yeah, I've got some questions on it. Would the superintendent, would you talk briefly about why we're doing this, and are there going to be additional services that we haven't had in the past, or is there a shifting of job responsibilities? What exactly it is.
Absolutely. This is one of the items that we felt strongly was needed to enhance our district. It was put in our strategic plan. So, of course, one of the first things that we've done was develop a policy, and then this will be the next step. How we have some of these job functions embedded is in our HR department, but the person that covers a lot of these jobs are covering multiple jobs. It's not a single source. So we are making a single source where it's a director that is going to help with recruitment, but also ensure our hiring practices, working directly hand in hand with our professional learning, and implementing the areas in that strategic plan that deal with diversity and inclusion. We certainly need someone of authority and of a high-ranking position to monitor that section of the strategic plan and ensure that we're enforcing and complying with the expectations of the board and the policy that's been directed.
I noticed that there were two portions of the job description that would this individual would have an influence on curriculum. Mm-hmm. And that concerns me. I could see this job being for the compliance end, but not necessarily in the curriculum side. Now, how would that interact with the deputy superintendent of curriculum?
I appreciate you wanting clarification on that. We do have a task force so that we can ensure that we're complying with all the policies and the regulations that the Department of Education is putting out on our curriculum, that we want to make sure that we have a diverse lens when selecting possibly some classroom libraries, to make sure that we're inclusive of all of our students, to make sure that we're ensuring that we're covering all types of textbooks or items that, novels that students can select and pick. But this is really, it is a compliance piece to make sure that we are following regulations and following policies that are coming out by the board or the Department of Education. But we have very strict guidelines set by the DOE in terms of textbook adoption. This is a person at the table, but we have a committee. We have parents involved, we have educators involved, and this person would also be a seat at the table. Not one person is going to make all the decisions for any of the pieces as well.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say to the board members, you know, I do have concerns. I think, we've had other districts in Florida that have had some controversy about some of the curriculum, you know, the diversity that's included in the curriculum, and it concerns me, because we've, you know, we certainly don't want, you know, some of the more controversial items to impact our school district. So,
Okay,
just passing that out.
okay, you got it. Reverend Gould?
Before I make my comment, I'd like to ask, what would be controversial in your mind?
I think, you know, the 1619 thing, you know,
1619 project?
yeah, I
Okay, the
think-
project with respect to the introduction of slavery
right,
into this country.
right.
Okay, so what's controversial about that?
Well, Reverend Golden, I have not studied it.
I see.
Yeah, no, I'm not,
That's fine. Thank you.
the
You've answered my question.
implication when that kind of information is provided in the school is that it's an indoctrination. And I think it can be very divisive. I'm happy to see the diversity position from a compliance point of view, but we need to be unified, not pointing out differences to our students. I know that's not a popular point of view, but
No, it really is. That is precisely why we need what we're trying to do, because what you just said, is very popular. There are a lot of people that have no idea what the 1619 project is, but they're very sure that efforts to bring about diversity and inclusion and equity in this community, that has got to be limited to compliance with laws that everybody already knows are ineffective and inefficient. That's what a lot of these people come down here and talk about all the time. And so I was happy, and I am going to support this, because I was happy when the decision was made that we are not only trying to achieve compliance, but we are really trying to overcome years of neglect and ignorance about what the real problems are in our communities. I have studied the 1619 project deeply and have great respect for all of the academics and all of the authors that put their effort into trying to make this happen. So I'm not in the least bit put off by the fact that this job description includes not only responsibility to assure compliance, but to help us to move beyond this level of complacency and try to achieve some level of excellence. This is not the Manatee County that it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Manatee County was black and white and mostly white. We now have a Hispanic population that exceeds African Americans in this county. And the Hispanics and African Americans in this county comprise about a third of the population of the county, and they're growing. So, you know what? I really appreciate your candor in admitting that you have not studied the 1619 project, but that is one of the things that you consider controversial. It's almost like I consider this to be controversial. No matter what anybody else says, it is a symbol that has devolved and evolved into white supremacy. That's what it's used for. That's the sign that it's used for. It didn't start out that way, but that's the way that it is. And so I appreciate your being honest. But I will be supporting this. We've got to change.
Okay.
For the sake of our children, we've got to change. Otherwise, they'll be just like us.
Thanks, Reverend Golden. Mrs. Messenger?
My understanding is any curriculum decision made will be based on the standards. And the standards have been recently redone Governor and our Education Commission to align with what we are required to teach
Absolutely.
based on the standards supported by the state with input from teachers, from parents, from the community, that there was a several year-long process of redoing all of it to ensure that there was community involvement in those standards. And I would expect that this district only purchase things that align to those standards.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Messer. Reverend Golden, and then,
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know how I got lit up again.
no, I might need to restart my computer. Mrs. Foreman.
Well, I would like a little clarification then on the curriculum. When we had the workshop on social and emotional learning, there was curriculum supplements. It's not, and certainly it wasn't aligned with state standards. It was an additional,
But it is. Social emotional learning is a requirement from the state of Florida. So they give guidelines and a policy that we have to purchase supplemental materials that support that state statute or policy. So when they give those supplemental for SEL, we have to undergo, all of our teachers, we were given 3 years to ensure that everyone's trained, and they're given materials and supports to execute that state statute. Textbook adoptions all come before you, but this person would sit on a committee that we have, a task force, when selecting any such curriculum materials. This would be one person that we will add to our whole group of input, just to make sure that we've got the lens and we're covering every aspect. We certainly do not want things that we're picking just from one lens in the department. So we will make sure that we have a diversified group of parents' input, employees' input, but we start with a policy and we start with the state standards so that we ensure that it matches those things before we execute or purchase or come before the board to select something.
thank you.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent Saunders. I don't see anybody else lit up to speak, and we've got a motion and a second. I do have a public comment
Two.
on my list. Oh, two, I'm sorry. Reverend Golden?
One on the back page.
Oh,
First,
you're right.
Helen Anderson. Helen Anderson. Helen Anderson. And then the second one on the back page, Mr. Chair, is Andrea Griffin.
She is already gone.
All right. Those are the only two that had signed up to speak on this subject.
We are ready to vote then. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Press your green button. Motion passes 5-0.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion passes 4-1. Sorry, Mrs. Foreman. Motion passes 4-1. Superintendent Saunders, item number 3, please.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the revisions of the job description of Executive Director of English Speakers of Other Languages, exceptional